Welcome back. The contested June election in Iran galvanized hundreds of thousands of people to come out onto the streets to protest in the first outpouring of its scale since the Islamic Revolution. At the time, new media mechanisms such as Twitter and Facebook were given much of the credit for getting the news out. However, what happened next was a familiar story. Arrests and detentions of protesters and journalists, and accusations of torture and even rape were made against the security forces. We thought this would be a good time to take another look at Iran. The Listening Post's Simon Ostrovsky now on the citizen journalists desperately trying to keep their political movement alive, and some of the things the government in Tehran is doing to counter them to keep its hold on power.
It was supposed to be a Jerusalem day, like any other, when Iran shows its support for the Palestinian people by marching in the streets to condemn Israel. But after a long 3 months in which the authorities rounded up hundreds of people, subjecting many to brutal interrogations in the wake of elections protests, these were the scenes on the streets of Tehran. They're chanting, not for Gaza, not for Lebanon, we will die for Iran.
Ever since the June elections, Iranians around the world have been protesting the contested victory of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. But the surprising thing is that the protests have continued in Iran itself. And this wouldn't have been possible without social networking and the information provided by dedicated citizen journalists online.
Using the blogs, the website, maybe 20 million young people back home in different cities, and every one of them got their own story to tell.
Here, mobile phone footage taken by a citizen journalist and posted on YouTube shows a mob tearing down an official poster that reads, "Palestine, the element of unity, Israel, the common enemy." A proliferation of websites and blogs to which tens of thousands of ordinary Iranians contribute every day, and which millions read, have in a very short time subverted the Islamic Republic's formidable media monopoly and put the authorities on the back foot.
They have done a wonderful thing in informing people in a greater level than it would have happened, especially now without access to mainstream media, and with very few newspapers that we've had either have been closed down or have internalized the restraints so much.
Those who post controversial material on the internet know they run the risk of landing in Tehran's notorious Evin prison. According to the New York-based Committee to Protect Journalists, close to 30 journalists and bloggers now languish in Iranian prisons.
Anyone who is putting posts on his or her weblog is jeopardizing his or her life.
Especially who died for freedom.
Iman Nabavi is a photographer now blogging from the relative safety of London. He told me how Iranians, despite the dangers, have kept the online protest movement alive.
At this time, the bloggers in Iran is working very hard to get the news out, using the mobile phone, the normal compact camera maybe. And this is the best because there's no news agency at this time working perfectly over there. Most of the news agency working with the government.
Nowruznews.ir is an online newspaper run by a handful of dedicated Iranians working in secret, both inside and outside Iran. It conducted an investigation into rumors that the authorities were hiding bodies of demonstrators in a city cemetery and posted this chilling footage of pre-dug graves. The pictures caused so much outrage that the government felt it had to react, producing reports like this one to decry the video as a fake and part of a Western smear campaign.
افرادی که از سوی مراجع قانونی و پزشکی قانونی منظورم هست، اینا هویتشون مشخص نیست برای اونها و در اثر حوادث فوت شدن، تصادف یا کارتون خواب هستن یا اعتیاد داشتن یا
The government has taken the threat of publications on the internet so seriously, it's prosecuted online activists publicly in show trials.
مسئول آیتی کمیته اطلاع رسانی و تبلیغات ستاد انتخاباتی میم بوده است و بعد از انتخابات فعالیت‌های گسترده اینترنتی را به منظور به جریان انداختن اغتشاشات انجام داده است.
And televised confessions.
خواسته وارد سناریو سازی های راهبران اصلی این اغتشاشات برای اشاعه انقلاب مخملین با توسعه شایعه مخدوش بودن انتخابات که در نتیجه آن زیر سوال بردن نظام شده بودیم.
Miriam Elia is a comedienne who's campaigning for the release of her friend, Hangame Shahidi, one of the many journalists arrested since the election.
I know that she's been arrested without any trial. I know that she's been tortured, and some of the worst forms of psychological torture called false executions, where you tell people that an order has been passed and they're going to die, and she's been led out and put to the gallows, and they've put, you know, the rope around her neck and then called off the execution at the last minute. It's a way of obtaining a false confession.
Despite having control of all of the country's traditional media, ever since June, the Iranian government has been fighting to sell its side of the story to its own people. Even the most non-political events have become politically charged. A football stadium filled with fans wearing the opposition's green color, chanting anti-government slogans. So what did this state-run broadcaster do? It aired the pictures in black and white and turned off the sound.
هیچ کاری به جز عذرخواهی نمیتونم بکنم، چون واقعا خودتون هم تصاویر رو میبینید. بعضا من شرمنده شما هم به حال بازی.
That's the official Iran, in black and white. The image the government wants to project is of a legitimate president, a statesman for his country. The reality is that at home, the authorities are being challenged by hundreds and maybe thousands of citizen journalists whose reporting, accurate or not, is spreading across the country and around the World Wide Web.
More Global Village Voices now on Iran and the post-election media.
We have podcasts, we have videos on YouTube, we have stories coming out of Iran, and for people who can read Persian, there are many blogs to read, and many of them are getting translated as well. So there are so many sources of information now, and not all of the pressure is on the mainstream media to do the reporting.
Finally, sometimes it takes a fictional narrative to make some pertinent points about the non-fictional world. There's an American website called collegehumor.com, which recently used some Star Wars characters to mark the 8th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks on New York and Washington. Now, that doesn't sound on the surface like it would work, but substitute the Death Star for the Twin Towers, some stormtroopers for U.S. soldiers, and throw in a conspiracy theory or two, and it all makes a strange kind of sense. We've made this bar scene our web video of the week, and we'll see you next time at the Listening Post.
You know, I don't want to be a downer, but you guys do know what tomorrow is.
What's tomorrow?
Anniversary of the Death Star.
The Death Star? Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. It's been a year already.
You guys remember where you were when it happened?
Yeah, I remember I was in Coruscant training, waiting to hear some friends made it out. And, of course, they didn't because, well...
It blew up?
Evaporated. Yeah, like a big, colorful firecracker. No one was getting out of there.
Yeah, you look at that part of the galaxy where the Death Star used to be, and it's just... nothing.
Yeah, still waiting on that memorial. Right now it's just a
little
space garden.
Oh, the space garden,
I hear they're gonna build a new one, though. It's gonna be almost as big.
Yeah, 8 times as big.
8 times as big. Haven't we learned anything?
Look, I mean, if you don't rebuild, the Jedis win.
Jedis. I'll tell you something. They hate our way of life. Now, just because someone believes in the Force doesn't mean they're gonna go blow up a space station, all right? Yeah, maybe. Listen, we have all of this technology, right? We can't find Luke Skywalker. One guy,
Got a point.
hiding out in a cave somewhere in Dagobah.
You know, honestly, I just think Palpatine knew all along. And he let it happen just to justify going to Hoth.
Oh, here we go.
No, I'm serious. What? Darth Vader happens to be in a TIE fighter when the whole thing goes down? Please.